Shalom. Before I begin, I want to give our praises to Yahweh. I'm sorry, Bashim Chakwadash. Double honor to the apostles, elders, great millstone, and Shalom to the Akim teaching his word. The four corners and true sincerity. Back with another lesson through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. The Lord and be edifying unto the elect of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Before I get into the lesson title, the true name of God is Yahweh. Alright, the Father, his name is Yahweh, which means he is or he exists. The name of his son who the world calls Jesus is Yahweh Shai, which means he saves or he delivers. Alright, and the Lord has sent out his prophets, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans scattered throughout the four corners of the earth to preach a message to the Israelites, which are the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, the 12 tribes of Israel, from Judah all the way to the end. To tell them of the incoming time, because we are at the end of the world, and the Lord is causing a great shift to happen in the earth. The Lord is causing men to return, or causing us, I should say, men, women, and children to return to their true biblical nationalities. Again, talking about us, to who we truly are. All right, as we live in these last days, we have to be vigilant. We have to, stay sober. We have to continue to watch, because days are, even. We have to stay in prayer, and we have to make sure that, again, we continue to fight the good fight of faith, because within this good fight of faith, we'll be awarded immensely. Okay, this is 2 Timothy 4, and I'm start at 6. It says, "But for I am not ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand." This is Paul, basically about to give up the ghost. And it says, "I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith." All right, because we all know this is a fight. All right, it's not only just physically, draining, but it's also spiritually, mentally, draining. That's what makes a fight a fight, right? It has to be some sort of struggle. But through that struggle, you are getting proven, right? You're getting proven that you are a man of God, that you are worthy, to receive, all right, the riches, the crown, right? You don't get paid at your job without doing the work, right? You gotta put in the hours. The same thing with us. We gotta put in our spiritual hours. We gotta spiritually clocked in, and we clocked in 24/7. All right, constantly proving to the Lord that we are are part of the elect. All right, trying to prove to the Lord that we can be part of the elect, because we don't know. All right, we're hopeful. In this sense, henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. So, at the end of the fight, then we will receive our crown of righteousness. All right, that graduation, that is talked about in 2nd Esdras, the 2nd chapter, 42 to down. All right, well, this is ultimately our end goal. All right, but before we reach that, I just want to focus upon the fight part. All right, because it was a video. I was on TikTok. It was a video. It was Nipsey, Hustle. All right, and I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play him for him.
A lot of times, even when you work out, your brain, your body's a lot stronger than your brain sometimes. And you gotta catch your brain up. Your muscles will be ready to keep going. Your brain will have its limit. You know what I'm saying? And be like, I can't do no more. And then your body will follow suit. But when you can break the mental barriers, you'll notice, damn, I can do way more.
You see, and I took this, all right, through a spiritual standpoint, because he's, talking about, mental capability, working out, bringing it into that sense. And, it's good to work out too, all right, because exercise does profit, but, spiritually, we constantly spiritually, working out and fighting, on a daily, basis. Because as he said, your body, will be ready to go, but because of your mind, and we can liken that into the flesh. Okay, the flesh is weakness. All right, it's weak. It wants to be, comfortable, which is not inherently a wrong thing to want to be a comfortable thing, right? Because the body doesn't like, to be, the body doesn't like to be put under any sort of stress, because it requires it doing more work. Right, just rather focus on one thing. But going back to what I was saying, all right, your flesh, it was like it will push you to just give up. Like it's harder, to fight for something than it is to just not do nothing at all. All right, but getting that, we have to take that in mind. All right, of the forces, the spiritual forces, all right, behind the scenes. Okay, because it's not only the flesh, it's Satan. All right, because Satan has a certain control over our body, right? Because in your mind, right, when you think about certain things, that's not you thinking it. Like, oh man, I can't do this. No, that's Satan. You have to, another point too, you gotta, rebuke, that as well. All right, scriptures already tell us that, we fight against, different spiritual. In Ephesians 6:12, so at 10 it says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. So we have to be strong. All right, you have to be strong. You have to show strength. All right, for you to be able to be strong, you have to show moments of being strong, right? But we have to be strong in the Lord. So when we come to these different crosswords within our mind, because really just be our mind and the flesh, telling us to stop, it hurts, stop doing it. All right, chill, just don't do it no more, things like that. Those things have to get rebuked on all levels, whether it be a workout, whether it be, just in every part of life, but mainly importantly, the truth. All right, because we already started, this course. Like, Paul said, I finished my course, so we already, started. All right, so we just gotta, push just a little more, literally just a little more, especially with these tensions going on with, the horror, which is American, and the beast, which is NATO to the EU. We just getting closer and closer to, World War III, the full implementation of, the mark of the beast according to Revelation 13:16. So now not the time to be, weak. All right. A quick scripture, because Ezra 2:14. 14 says, let go from thee mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off now the weak nature. So you got to put off that weak nature, which is the flesh, all right? And set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times. For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. All right, so we got to cast those thoughts aside. All right, those thoughts of being down or, all right, feeling down, just pushing yourself in a lower state. You're already fighting. You don't want to be your own enemy, right? These thoughts and it's really these demons coming into your mind, just telling you you can't be subject, and just right when you hear those thoughts, you already just you rebuke, you ain't do nothing, you ain't pray. You just like, you right, man. That's weak, right? That's weak. Okay. And you already talking about, we got to go through way worse, worse in these last days, coming into, Jacob's trouble and, not eating and, all right, the power being shut off. All right, these are the times that we, coming into. All right, you failing now, that just means that you weren't meant to be, or part of the elect. This is simple as that. All right, so you have to push yourself. And we do that through the Lord. Do it through the names of Yahweh Bashim Shai. All right, because what are we? We just worms. Our strength comes from the Lord. All right, and that's where humility, plays a part. All right, it says put on the whole armor of the Most High. Sorry, it says put on the whole armor of the Most High that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. All right, so we have to be fully, armored. All right. How can you put on the armor? Do what? The scriptures, through praying, through fasting. Right, not literal, but spiritual. Right, paying attention, examining yourself. Again, fasting, speaking to myself. First and foremost, that's our armor. All right, because scriptures even tell us that some, spirits or demons can be cast out except by what? Prayer and fasting. Right. So this is how we protect ourselves. So because we got to be protected. All right, because we are made a prey, to these different spirits. What is that? No. Let's log in. Isaiah 59:15, it says, "Yet true felleth, and he that parteth from evil make himself a prey, And the Lord Yahweh saw it, and it displeased him. There was no judgment. So because we're getting this truth, we're looked as a prey. You know, we shining in a world full of darkness, or looking like a nice, you know, piece of meat, right, to these lions out here, which are these spirits. All right, and they constantly are trying to, you know, come after us. All right. But again, we gotta be strong in the Lord. We could be like one of these niggas out here that got depression, you sad all the time. But no, we got the truth, we got the wisdom and knowledge. Like the truth is peaceful. All right, it comes with a peace of mind. You don't stress certain things like how you would. All right, because you know the bigger picture. But Ephesians 6:12 first says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." So again, it's more, you know, spiritual than it is just, you know, physical. The physical is just, you know, work. All right. You know, for the most part, work. But it's more spiritual. Really, it's all spiritual. All right. Let's see what wrestle. Wrestling means wrestling, a contest between two in which each endeavors to throw the other, in which is decided when the victor is able to hold his opponent down with his hands upon his neck. It determines transfer to the Christian's struggle with the power of evil. Right, so, you know, wrestling constantly. Because, again, we got the tempter, right? The tempter, which is Satan, you know, constantly trying to come after us. All right, Paul talks about the tempter. You know, Ephesians 6 and continuing on, 12, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, right? This is with an S, so it's constant, you know, and multiple forces, spiritual forces that we can't see, that are, you know, looking at us and, you know, fucking with us on a day-to-day basis. You may think it's you, but it's not. It's not you. How you feel with certain things, how certain things affect your mood. It just be spirits, all right? Just behind the scenes, you have to check that. You may be feeling some way, be like, you know, why the fuck I'm feeling like this for? Like, and you gotta rebuke it, all right? Put yourself in check, all right? It says against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So this thing is not light at all. All right, all the men of the Lord went through, you know, a form of, you know, fighting temptation. All right, spiritual forces, you know, we all go through it. You know, it's all the same, you know, thing, but we all have the same, all right, source, right? We all have the same, you know, outlet, which is Yahweh Bashim Yahushai at the end of the day. So no matter how hard it may look, right? No matter how, you know, muddy it may get, all right? We don't rely on our own flesh for strength. We rely on something way greater that we can never, you know, comprehend. And that's Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So we must stay solid as he is for us. Okay, because Lord gave us an amazing opportunity. It's to be part of something great and eternal. All right. So we can't let, again, going back to that second Ezra 14, so greater evils is coming. So we can't let things now affect, and we can't let emotions and little bullshit affect or risk our chances. All right. And with that alone, this lesson was edifying. I want to give our praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Achak Wadash, and Don't want to see the apostles and elders, great millstone, and Shalom to the Hakim, teaching his word, Dr. Four Corners, and true sincerity, Alchemy was out here, Shalom.